the persistence and like the work ethic aspect of it is hard to teach. As a kid, having the opportunity to watch my dad, who had his own business, just put the time in, stay persistent, get the work done, not done till the job's over, laser focused, it obviously resonated very well with me. That my simple math in my head was I'm going to spend X amount more hours than everyone else. And that's what's going to help me leapfrog other people. When you do something, you have to have a level of enjoyment that makes you want to go do it, that you find like pleasure. I got to be so good that they can't deny that I'm not at a certain caliber of play.
All right, guys, this episode is special. My guest today is Dustin Pease. He's the founder of Pease Baseball Professionals. He's a former pro player. He's a former D1 All-American, my former teammate, and honestly, one of the most solid guys you're ever going to meet. And this conversation is cool and unique because we cover a variety of topics, but you're going to get it from the perspective of a player going through his journey, as well as the perspective of a coach. We're going to talk about grit. We talk about adapting, what it was like being the smallest guy on the team, the highs and lows of his journey from high school through the pros, the moments that tested him, and then ultimately how he found his purpose after his playing days with what he's doing now at Pease Baseball Professionals. So players, coaches, and parents, tune in. You don't want to miss this one. Dustin Pease, welcome to the Next Season podcast.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on. Excited to be here. Get to talk with a fellow alum. Awesome.
Heck yeah. It was good times, man. Good times. You know baseball. Like, I don't think there's many people that I've gotten to know personally and got an opportunity to play with that know the game as well as you do. And so we'll talk about some of what you see as you're doing your coaching and you having your baseball facility. What I really appreciated was that you hosted that workshop, which is really powerful and really focused on the mental side of the game. I think that's something that you understand is really important from your experience as a player and as a coach now. So we'll talk about all that. But it was great to see you in the fall, and I'm excited to have you on the show.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here. Like I said, fellow alum, get to talk baseball, talk mental, talk business, talk whatever it is. Like we're going to talk all things baseball. So I'm pumped about it.
Well, let's start. So what I like to do is start at the beginning. Who is Dustin Pease? Take me back to the beginning. Where'd you grow up?
Oh man. So for me, Baltimore native, grew up 5 minutes from Camden Yards. We were in Baltimore County, but like we were very close to the city. Light rail got put in and we were zipping down to the stadium a lot with me and my dad. And I would say that's for me, that's basically where it all started. My dad was a big time Orioles fan, still is a big time Orioles fan, die hard. We were down there watching as many games as he could take me to. He had the game on every night in the house and Cal Ripken, all the things growing up, like it resonated in my heart greatly, this baseball at a very young age. Um, he played at a high level talent wise, and he had a chance to play professionally. He went out to a couple tryouts with the Pirates and was called back, but didn't quite make it in. And that story kind of resonated with me with my dad. And he loved baseball so much, and it started hitting me. And I just wanted to keep playing, and I wanted to keep practicing and developing, and kind of like be that for him to watch as time went on. So I loved it a lot. I think I wanted to just do something special. So, like, I feel like from there, I played all through my childhood, went on to play in high school, went to Lansdowne High School as a freshman in Baltimore County, and then transferred into Archbishop Spalding in hopes to get a scholarship to a college. And so played there. When I was actually transferred in there from a local baseball facility. The coach saw me in there all the time practicing. He's like, we got to get you over to this school. And lucky enough, my parents were able to get me into that private school that really helped prepare me academically for, but then also, on the skill side, I was definitely much more prepared having the coaching at Spalding and getting my lessons in and just working at it and training at it and working with those people that really taught me a lot of what I needed to know to perform at the level that you saw when we met at Mount St. Mary's, which needed to be above and beyond just from what my peers were genetically. Like I had to have some sort of edge. And that's a lot of the stuff that I learned in high school. So,
Yeah.
uh, yeah, so 4 years at Mount St. Mary's, went undrafted there, had a good career there, as you know. I was lucky enough to have
Oh, yeah.
an All-American there, then all conferences and Hall of Fame and all that stuff. It was all great. Went undrafted, played 6 years in pro ball, final 2 years with the Padres. And once I finished up with them, I went back to coach at Mount St. Mary's for a couple of years as a pitching coach, and then pursued Pease Baseball, basically Pease Baseball Professionals after that. That kind of started to blow up, and that's all like private player development and coaching. So we're still doing baseball, but that's kind of my 2-minute snapshot.
Love it. I didn't realize, Dustin, that you grew up that close to downtown Baltimore. I knew you were Baltimore County. I didn't realize you were that close.
Really close. Like, we get in a car, we're down there within 7 minutes, like, not even, like, 5 minutes. Like, car or
Yeah.
light rail actually took a little longer because you're stopping, but, yeah, we're really close. You get to the top of our street, and you can see the skyline from there. It was Baltimore Highlands. That's where we were.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. And so the old man played baseball.
Yeah, I think the more I learned about my dad, he was just an athletic guy. Like, he would talk about, like, going out, like, ice skating, like, around the local town, like, going out on the lakes, and he'd be out there, like, flipping around on skates and playing baseball and, playing switch hitting and playing shortstop and just apparently he was a super athletic, and I didn't quite just see all the heyday stuff, but I suppose we all have some of that, some of my siblings and I, so
Yeah. And then he got into business. He got into a business, right? He had his own business.
yeah, Pease Plumbing. So I wore that around Mountain a lot. You guys probably saw those shirts. So he was an entrepreneur. He decided to go into business for himself. So he did that for most of what I can remember through my childhood. And I grew up in a blue collar work ethic, I guess you could say. And I was out there plumbing with him. I got to know the values of hard work and putting your time in. And I think that was looking back, that was very valuable for me to learn that. And for me, kind of established, like, I'm not sure I wanted to be a plumber. It was grueling work. I saw the type of toll it would take on your body, my dad's body. Like, it was hard work. And I was fortunate and lucky enough to be able to live that for years, like being like, man, this is tough. Like, but this is the way it is. Like, this, you got to get this done. Like, here's a job, execute it, get it done. It was good to do that because I think it really pushed me into where I am today, just in terms of, like, the mental focus of, like, how I'm executing the business that I have now. Um, it was beneficial for sure, and I'm very thankful that I was able to grow up in that environment.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think it teaches you, sports, I think teaches us so much and entrepreneurship teaches us so much. And so much of it is along the way. Like you can't go into really any journey, but certainly not entrepreneurship, certainly not athletics, thinking that you're prepared as you start. And we were just talking about parenting,
Mhm.
before we start recording. You learn as you go, and you figure it out, and you fail, and that's just the nature of it. That's just the way it is.
Yeah. I think the
Yeah.
the persistence and, like, the work ethic aspect of it is hard to teach, so it's almost like as a kid having the opportunity to watch my dad, who had his own business, just put the time in, stay persistent, get the work done, not done till the job's over, laser focused, like, it resonated. It obviously resonated very well with me, and it helped me carry through into how I eventually started developing my skills in baseball. Baseball wasn't hard work, in my opinion, at that point. It was like baseball is a game, and I felt like, yeah, I can spend 5 hours doing baseball. I'd rather spend 5 hours doing baseball than 5 hours in a hole somewhere,
Yeah.
digging or plumbing, so it connected with me differently, and I think
Yeah.
ultimately that's why I spent that my simple math in my head was, I'm gonna spend X amount more hours than everyone else, and that's what's gonna help me leapfrog other people and perform better, and yeah, in a way, like, it kinda connected with my development. It's interesting.
And we're going to talk about as you get into college and in the pros, like, it is work, right? Like, that, like you get in and you touched on it a little bit earlier. And it's the same thing I experienced is through high school, I kind of coasted, right? Like I was good enough that I could kind of coast. And I got to college and it's not like, I mean, it was D1. There was some really good competition. There were some really good players. Um, and I didn't fully appreciate and recognize the amount of work that it took and that like just showing up and just going through it was never going to be enough.
Hmm,
But at the same time, what you just said was, so it takes work, but it's a game. Like it's
mhm,
fun. Like we get to play a kid's game.
mhm.
And don't lose sight of that. And I don't think you ever did. Just the way that you approached it. I don't think it to me, it didn't seem like you weren't having fun out there.
Yeah, I think that's what you just said there, definitely connects into the mental aspect of development is that, when you do something, you have to have a level of enjoyment that makes you want to go do it, that you find, like, pleasure and joy in doing it. And for me, it could have just been my upbringing, like, with knowing, like, what a tough, hard task was on your body
Mhm.
compared to, like, playing the game, and how that brings like fun and enjoyment. Um, but making that connection for people that maybe haven't lived that experience is tough. It's tougher to do that. Um,
Yeah.
and that's why, like, at least from a coaching perspective, like as a mentor, like you're trying to like sometimes it gets like a little gritty and like how you're explaining like how to get things done, how you're trying to like get your practice in, get your work in, and making sacrifices and things like that. It should be enjoyable. So it's like when you're trying to make those connections, it's like, well, this is all this should be fun for you. And it's
Yeah.
like there needs to be like a come to Jesus moment at some point for some of these guys, these kids, like, all right, this is fun. Like I do want to practice and I do want to work hard and I see what the goal could be. That's what makes coaching so rewarding. It's not just the move like this, move like that. It's like you're really trying to shape them into something that they want to be. And it's not just the movement skill stuff. It's the drive, it's the passion, it's the commitment. It's all of those things. If that's not there, the 1 hour lesson's not gonna get it done ever, you know?
Right. Right. Absolutely. So another thing that you said, that the old man was a switch hitter.
Mm,
You were a switch hitter,
was.
and you were also obviously known for your sidearm delivery. And I on and everyone listening, go check out Dustin's business page. We'll talk about it at the end. You did a really cool job, a good job of laying out kind of your story, and it details everything. So I read that, but you talk about how there's this kind of this theme as you went through growing up into high school into college of kind of being undersized. And, comparatively, if we look at scouting, if we look at what coaches look for, you're kind of looking for that stud, athlete, right? Like 6'1", 6'2", 200 pounds. You and I are not that. So we have to have the talent, but we also have to have the other components that make up, that full picture, that full player, the effort, the ambition, the mindset. Those are the pillars that I use: talent, effort, ambition, and mindset. You obviously have those. So thinking about this theme of this grit, like you said, and this tenacity that you have, and it's almost like a watch me. Like, okay, you're gonna tell me I can't do it. You're gonna tell me I'm not big enough. Watch me.
Mm, mm.
Is that where this sidearm delivery came from and the switch hitting came from? Like, where did you start to pull in those things where, you know what, I'm gonna play the game different because I have to?
That that is kinda basically it right there. I have to. Um, it all started with me was I had the seed was planted in my heart that I wanted to play Major League Baseball. Like, I wanted to play at the highest level of the world has ever seen, you know, wanted to that's where I needed to get to. And I was a realist at the same time, like, well, I'm short. My family isn't like that. We don't have a slew of us that are all a certain height and just yoked and massive, you know. So I needed to figure out a way to outsmart the competition in order to make it to the highest level of the game with the size and with what I was given from God, you know. So my pitching coach at the time was the bullpen catcher for the Orioles. His name was Tom Bates. He's currently the manager of the Washington Wild Things, which is, they're in the Frontier League for independent baseball. His name was Tom Bates. He's a bullpen catcher for the Orioles, and he was also their batting practice thrower. He was ambidextrous, so he threw both with both arms. He was a very unique unicorn of his own right, in doing that. That was my coach growing up,
Shout out.
okay?
Shout out,
Yeah,
Tom.
Tom Bates. Um, so, you know, he had this was at the time where, you know, left-handed pitchers were coming into the bullpen, and they were kinda moving into, like, this specialty range, and I was like, "Alright," like, he's like, "So why don't we think about, like, dropping your arm slot down and creating, like, a little bit of a unique flair to your delivery?" I was like he gave me a week to think about it. I was like, "Yeah, let's do this." So, you know, immediately right then, you know, you think like, "Alright, we get this prototypical stud looking dude, you know, built, looks the part. And I needed to figure out a way to stand out and be that looks the part, or at least get some extra attention. So what is that? Let's change my arm slot, look a little different. And that grabs attention. So like that makes sense. You're gonna grab attention. All right. So now I got their attention. I have to be really freaking good. I gotta be so good that they can't deny that I'm not at a certain caliber of play. And for me, I had to learn how to get more people out than everyone else, throwing
Mhm.
slower than everyone else, and maybe not having as many awesome attributes pitch wise or velocity as everyone else. I need to figure out how to do that. So, what is that pitching location? execution, command, moving your pitches around, outsmarting the hitter, pitch IQ. That is real. Like, that is very real, and I lived that. That's how I made it in baseball. That right there is I was able to live that and show that and demonstrate that having that IQ and those skills can really help you scale your development. So I spent hours upon hours upon hours honing my command ability, not really ever missing locations, understanding how hitters are timing, um, make each pitch based on that. Um, and really heighten my command so where I was able to throw 3 pitches for strikes in any count in any location.
Mm,
And that I was able to do by the end of high school. I was committed to Pfeiffer University, which is in North Carolina, and then I was able to pitch in front of Coach Thompson a few times that fall, and he offered me a scholarship that fall. So it was my only Division I scholarship. I carved everyone up that fall. I had stupid video game statistics for that showcase team. And I was like, "I'm gonna take this Division I offer because this is where I wanted to play." And then, from that point on, I was an All-American the next year. I was a Division I All-American the very next year, pitching in college, throwing sidearm, throwing 80 to 83 miles an hour, 3 pitches on the same team with some of the best pitchers in the country that came into Division I baseball that year. And it's it's not just because of my slot. My slot got me some attention, and then he was able to watch me pitch and watch me pitch and watch me, and that's kinda how I continue to get opportunities. People would see, "Oh, this is kinda weird. Look, this is different. Why is he so what's making him get all these people out? Like, what's happening
yeah,
here?" It was just countless hours on the mound, just going through it, just executing, like, boring, bludgeoned work, constant repetition, high volume. Because people would always ask me, even in pro ball, "How did you get your command so good? Like, you're just so like, how lucky is that?" Like, that this is like a very purpose-driven, deliberate practice I did for months, months and months and months and years. It's just like you're seeing what this is the result of that all.
yeah.
So,
You know what? You know this. That's every success story, right? Anybody that's good at anything, if you think all of it's an overnight success, yeah, it's because I've been working overnight for all the years, right? That's what it takes. Um, and as a hitter, you get to college, and when we got to college, like you're kind of measuring up, right? Who's big, who's strong, who's got pop. Like it's all the practice looks. You and I, like I said, don't have the size. I step in the fall, freshman year, you're a freshman, and we're having inter squad scrimmages, things like that. And I'm like, okay, I can hit this guy. Freaking nasty. I don't remember who it was. Maybe you remember. Maybe you've done this multiple times. I don't remember. But you threw a slider to a right-handed batter at one point, and he swung and missed, and it hit him in the stomach. I don't remember who it was. It might have been me. I don't know.
that's happened a lot in my career.
Yeah,
Like, yeah,
it's
it's happened.
nasty.
Yeah.
You have this success, like you said, freshman All American. You come in D1, freshman All American, all conference. Freshman, sophomore year, same thing, like and it's not like you're not throwing that, you're throwing a lot of innings, like, you're getting work. What was that transition to college like for you? What was that journey through college like for you? I'm sure there was highs and lows, but, at the end of the day, the results speak for themselves, but talk me through a little bit just real quick on what the college experience was like for you, that journey.
Yeah. I mean, I to your point, I had something to prove. I was gonna try to prove that I was the best pitcher in the country every single time I was out there pitching. And I felt like I had that ability. My freshman year, I came in there, I felt very confident in my ability. And I think that confidence came from my practice. I was so well
Mhm.
prepared for college that it just shined through. And I think everybody they're like, "Well, how is this guy doing this?" I was just so prepared.
Yeah.
Between my mentor, my coach, the teaching, the IQ, the practice, the skill development, I just felt like when I faced the hitters, they were just not on that level. They were just not ready for what I was going to be doing to them. And, my goal, you know, things were a little up and down through college. Sophomore year wasn't quite as consistent. Junior year, revamped a little bit, and then the innings really kind of hit me hard. Senior year, thinking of 100 over 100 innings in the spring season. Um, and then I still went off to go play pro ball that spring. But I hit a little rough patch sophomore year. I slipped on ice that winter, and my back like got messed up a little. So
Mm,
I had to recover from that. And we all know how injuries affect and impact people. That was probably one of the biggest unknown, overshadowed injuries in my life, where like I slipped and it kind of messed my mechanics up a little bit, and it threw me off just enough to where I was able to compete, but it wasn't at the same level as before.
mm,
Found it again junior year. Um, Struggled with it most of my pro career, believe it or not, and didn't really find it till the end. And I think it was all for good things. I think my role in this has been to coach, and I think that's really where I'm supposed to be. So,
yeah,
but yeah, speaking back to the college part, I just think the preparational aspect of it was big, and just
yeah.
those intangible things that you spoke of in the beginning, like those are so important and powerful and separating factors because on every single team I've ever played on, I've I wouldn't say I've been the smallest, but I've been the slowest thrower. But when I got into pro ball, I was definitely the smallest. I was the shortest and I was the slowest thrower. And then you have to look at how am I on the same stage as everyone else? And it's a balancing act. You have to have the skills that can scale to that level. And that's hard to convey to people this day and age is that you can really be awesome, like really awesome at baseball without being like the prototypical, athlete.
Yeah.
And conveying that is fun. And I just think, what you're like the mental side of it starts there, like the decision, the seed, the passion, like all that stuff is critical.
You said it beautifully, Dustin. When I talk about confidence and we talk about where confidence comes from, I think a lot of people have this false confidence if they've got the size, they got the genetics, they got, whatever natural speed or power or strength. Like I work with some players that are just raw beasts, right? And, physically just have all the tools, but mentally they're not there.
Yeah.
And then you've got kids that are grinding and putting in the work. And you said it perfectly. Your confidence doesn't come from external factors. It comes from evidence of the work that you've done. You knew that you could go into college and play D1 and pitch and get hitters out because of the work you did. You know you could go into the pros and be one of the smaller guys, if not the smallest guy on the team, because of the work that you did to master your ability to locate and get hitters out and outthink them. And I think a lot of people think that confidence comes from the results. It comes from the work done.
I think and having that guidance, like I had a very reliable teacher. It was like I had such trust in who was teaching me what I was doing. Like I need to know how to do this at a high level without being able to throw as hard as like or as have those types of skills as everyone or like a talent as everyone else. You know,
Yeah.
and that's what makes I think my talent was a little bit different. It was a much more harder process, I think, because it really required a ton of work, but it was fun and it was enjoyable. And I really, if that enjoyment factor wasn't there, uh, I would have never ever played baseball. Like
Yeah.
it just isn't going to happen. You have to be able to tie fun, enjoyment, and love of the game into your practice. And the majority of your time in baseball should be spent in practice, in my opinion. Like
Mhm.
that's where I spent most of my time anyway. The game was an hour or 2 a week or 2, the time scale was way different, like, practice was way over here and games, like, were this like, that accounted for as much as my baseball life,
Mhm.
and, I think when some people start realizing that, they're like, "Well, I don't know if I wanna like, work like that." It's like, well, it should never feel like work, it should always feel like fun. So, I think that's a really important thing, and I try to do that more at lessons, is just try to make things more enjoyable. Like, so they're having it we have the facility set up for lessons and instruction, but we also have it set up for members now, which is like that side is for places for you to go to get your work in on your own, fun in on your own, a place to just keep practicing and playing baseball. Like that's the type of model I grew up in. I had the same type of amenities. So and that it had guys like Gavin Floyd, Mark Teixeira, Steve Clevenger. It was a small little Glen Burnie town that like produced big leaguers. It's pretty
Yeah.
cool, and I don't
Mhm.
think you can't overlook that. Like having a place to go and a place that you have a home, like a baseball home that you can go have your fun in. I think it's important, and you kind of thrive off each other, obviously. So that's what I've been trying to recreate here. And I kind of went off on a tangent a little bit, but that's kind of what we have at Pease Baseball. It's like we're trying to build this culture and community of like-minded kids. You're in there, you're meeting up, you're having fun, and you're getting better. And I think that's ultimately what you want in your practice.
Listen up, players. This is gold. Culture is keep it fun, and practice is where it happens. It happens and develops in the practice, and the game is your opportunity to showcase everything you've done, and that's it. Talk me through pro baseball. When did you realize that pro baseball was realistic for you? And just give us kind of a glimpse of what that journey was. Again, if you can check it out, Dustin details this on his website and kind of walks through the entire journey, every team, kind of the ups and downs, the highs and lows. But talk us through just kind of real quick what that pro journey was like for you.
Yeah, so I kind of thought it was going to happen after my freshman year in college because coaches started talking like, yeah, you might be getting drafted in a couple of years, and it's like
Mm,
my confidence level was at such a high level, and I was still so confident in my ability to continue to perform like that through college until the injury happened. I was like, I felt like, yeah, I was on that trajectory. So it hit me hard early in college, and then as college went on, I was like, all right, like I need to get this together if I'm going to make this happen. Um, draft came in or the season ended, went off to go play an independent baseball. And that opportunity happened a week after graduation. I had some tendonitis from that season, and we were the regular season champs that year. So it was our first time making a playoff appearance. So I couldn't even pitch in it because I had tendonitis in my shoulder. And it was so bad I could barely move my arm. And but it was so quick that I was pitching 2 weeks later on a professional team. So
mm,
it was the strangest thing with how that tendonitis worked with me. Um, And I was out there pitching for the Winnipeg Gold Eyes that year, and the draft came and went. I did not get drafted that summer, which I could have been, even though I was playing for Winnipeg. And then after that first year with Winnipeg, the Kansas City Royals signed me to a free agent deal in 2008, which was it was a big thing. It was a big deal. It's like, all right, here's my opportunity. Um, Went out there with all the massive prototype kids. I was the smallest out there. Got released on the final day of spring training. I performed well. I had a really good spring training, but they didn't keep me around for that spring training. They did not let me break camp. Um, I was there with Ivor Hodgson, another fellow alum. He was drafted in the 17th round the year before. Um, he went off to go play A ball that year. I went back to Winnipeg and then ended up, I was like, I just want to get back in the United States. Winnipeg is in Canada. I was like, I need to get into the US playing pro ball. I was lucky enough to get traded to the Windy City Thunderbolts, played there for a season out in Chicago. After that, I got traded to the Wichita Wingnuts, which is out in Kansas. Played there for a season. I decided to play just a pitch out just out of the bullpen that year. Throughout my whole career, I wanted to prove everybody wrong, be a starting pitcher, But with the type of way that I threw, I was like, I'm just gonna lean into this and embrace my arm slot, embrace what I probably should be at the highest level, and that's a relief pitcher. So I did that in Wichita. I ended up being the pitcher of the year for Wichita Wingnuts. Pitched really, really well. I finished the year with them, and then I went to go finish that season with the York Revolution, which is where we ran into each other, I believe.
So I gotta tell this story quick. And you we just talked about this when I was with you in the fall, but I gotta do it again. So this is what, 2010?
That was 2010.
2010. So I'm living my fiance at the time, she's not my wife, are living in York County. And we get engaged and we're looking for wedding venues. And she knows baseball's so big in my life. So we're looking around for wedding venues and can't find the right one. And she didn't tell me that she had booked kind of all but signed the contract to get married on the field at the York Revolution, which is it's a professional organization, it's part of the Atlantic League, to get married on the field at home plate in September of that year, September 2010. And so the day before our wedding, we go in for the rehearsal dinner, and we're in the suite, we have a rehearsal dinner, and then as part of that, they allow me to go down and throw out the first pitch. And so I'm down there on the field, and I'm like, okay, I've had 2 shoulder surgeries. I'm like, I gotta warm these old arms up. And I look over, and there's Dustin. And I hadn't seen you in 6 years probably at that point.
Yeah.
And I look over, I'm like, oh my God, I had no idea that you were there. I had no idea. And you had just been signed.
Yep.
And one of the coolest moments for me in a the day before the biggest day of my life, and a whirlwind of a weekend. And one of the absolute highlights and coolest moments was to look over and see when I got to throw out the first pitch to you, which was just it was really special.
It's really special to hear you say that for me to see me there. It was special for me too. I mean, I had just gotten there and it was like a new team. So to see a familiar face, I was like, this feels right. Like
Yeah,
I'm where I was supposed to be. Like that was very serendipitous how it happened. I caught it. So you threw a strike, I believe. Everything was
of
good.
course.
um yeah, the rest is rock and roll history. The team went on to win a championship that year. So we got an Atlantic League championship and that was cool. Went back to and then I got signed by the Padres after that. So it was Wichita, York, meet you, see you again. It was awesome. Win a championship. San Diego Padres signed me that winter. Went back out to another spring training, just more gritty than ever. That time I actually broke camp, went to high in Lake Elsinore, California. Had a really good season there. Um, Went on to play Double A the next year and in the San Antonio Missions. And I that year in spring training, I was lucky enough to get into 5 major league spring training games just assigned. I was able to be on the same field with them. I was called a JIC just in case, just in case something happens, we might get in the game. It was cool. That experience was really special for me, just being in the bullpen with the big leaguers. It started to feel more real. Um, so going up to Double A, I had I would say a pretty average season, and for someone like me, a free agent sign, there's no room for average. I have to overperform. I have to be performing I had to be performing like a big leaguer in Double A, and that's not how I was performing. I did fine, but fine wasn't what it was going to take to make it to the highest level.
Yeah.
Um, there's always some luck involved with how people come up and down, and there's always other people. Like, well, what about that? It wasn't in the cards for me, and I think the most special thing I can take from it is I feel very happy and confident with what I'm doing now, and I think that's just coaching and just working with, players and helping them understand, like, the majority of the people in the world aren't these seems like prototypical genetic freaks, it's guys that are just really trying to that love baseball, they wanna improve, and I feel like I was able to live that out. I'm like, "You can do this. It's just gonna take there's a process to it." Um, and just connecting with kids too. I just feel like that's a good thing. These kids need positive role models. And, we have a really great staff of coaches and just getting the kids around the right people, I think is just a really important thing.
So let's talk about let people know what you're doing now. Pease Baseball Professionals. You just opened up a new location, I believe.
Mhm.
So tell us about what you're doing now, what that next phase of your life has been. So obviously the playing career ended, right? And for some guys, it ends abruptly. Some guys you kind of see it coming, but for everybody, it's going to end. And so what you've done with that is said, okay, I've got all this experience, I've got this mindset, I've got this perspective, I've got this life perspective, I've got a passion and a purpose and a why, and I'm going to put that towards Pease Baseball Professionals. Tell us about what you're doing now.
Yeah. So after I went back to go coach at Mount St. Mary's, I realized that, coaching a team and coaching a staff wasn't really something I felt as connected with. I felt like I connected better in a state where, like, I was with lessons growing up, like, that I have very fond memories of, like, my coach making it, like, a really strong impact on me, and I feel like a lot of different coaches impact in different ways. Some coaches impact groups better than they impact individuals, and that's just my opinion. And I feel like some coaches they know that. They know that they thrive better with a team, and they connect better that way than they do maybe than they do with their one-on-one relationships with their players, and that's not a bad thing. I think, there's a balance of it all, but for me, I feel like I connected better with one-on-one coaching, development, mentorship. It really connected with me, to do that. So that's what I started to pursue when I left Mount St. Mary's, and I was officially out of, like, coaching and playing. And, so, what happened was, I just kind of I built up a lot of players I was working with. I went from giving lessons in a local park to going inside. I'm like, I need to be inside all. I can't be worrying about the weather and whatnot. I ended up going in. I was renting a cage, bringing my players inside at a local facility here in Frederick. So I was renting a cage over and over and over again. Was fortunate enough to run into the right dad, and he had a warehouse because it's a bare bones warehouse. Yeah, I think I could, like, maybe divvy a portion of this for like a cage. So, moved in there, kind of like a little makeshift cage, helped me build a mound. The foundation was like off. We had to like fix all that up, made it work, grinded through it. As the years went along, he ended up closing his business and I took over that whole warehouse. So and we still use that one today. That's our Kings Court location. So it's 270-foot cages. And during that time, I ran back into Ivor Hodgson, somebody who that, we went to college together. He was done with his pro career. He's living in Frederick. I'm like, listen, there's so many people reaching out about lessons. Like, I can't see all these people. I was like, what do you think about this? So he jumped on board. He was our first, like, second coach, co-founder. And before we knew it, like, we both were full. Coach Thompson and actually ended up coming back from Mount St. Mary's. So now Coach Thompson's on our staff, a longtime coach at Mount St. Mary's. And before we knew it, Kings Court was way too small. We needed to get into a new location. So we happened to move into one right across the street, double the amount of space. We opened up a new membership model. We had more room for lessons, brought in more coaches. And long story short, we have a great spot for members. The main idea is to give people 365 access to our facility, to come in and have a place to practice, a place to train every day, to get work in, not have to schedule a cage or schedule a tunnel. It's an annual thing. You sign up, it's an annual contract. They get the space, they have it for the year. They get discounts on all the services and lessons that we have. It's been thriving. We have 9 coaches on staff. We just opened up a new location in Mount Airy, same type of model. We have a couple more coaches down there. And it's just been special. It's been really special to see the development happen from people just getting in there, working together every day, and seeing some guys that aren't taking as many lessons. It's just constant. They're just in there working, and just watching that development happen is really special. And I think that's what connects with all of my guys. We just love. It's a rewarding job. Like, you get to see and make impacts on people daily, and it's awesome. It's awesome.
And you are, and that's always been you, Dustin. You're somebody who you leave an imprint on people. And when we were talking before, a couple of words that come to mind with you is obviously integrity and character. And uh, maybe we'll have you back on at some point. We could dive deeper into those. Another one that comes to mind for you is steadiness. And it was just always, you were just steady, right? Like, not only on the field and the performance, like, you knew what you were going to get. We knew that you were going to get hitters out. We trusted you, and we had your back as a teammate. But off the field, probably even more importantly, off the field, you were steady, right? You were always smiling, always happy, not trying to force opinions on people, but just always there. And I think that's one of the biggest things that to me, without being able to see it too much firsthand, I know that you're creating that culture within the service that you have and the teams that you're building down there. So I'm just proud of you. I appreciate what you're doing, and just thanks for coming on. Thanks for taking the time to speak.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on. And I think what you're doing on the mental side and trying to bring more awareness to that from like trying to connect with players through that way. It is it is its own realm. Like, that is its own realm of coaching for sure. And I think more time should be spent with with that in general. And I think that you're doing a great service just bringing more awareness to it and trying to get kids connected in that way and to thinking outside the box a little bit with their development. And not just that, just character traits in general. Just
Yeah.
life lasting skills that are beyond baseball. Um, and again, you mentioned that about me. That came from a few things. It kind of was imprinted on me from my dad, and also imprinted on me from my baseball coach, Tom Vaith. Like,
Mm.
he's a gritty guy, kind of hard nosed guy, but it rubbed off on me in the best possible way, and it carried through into my regular life, and it's been great. So thank you for that, and thank you for what you're doing too. I'm excited to have some of our guys hopefully jump on here and see this episode.
Absolutely. Yeah. We're gonna keep putting them out there. Where can people find
Cool.
you?
They can find me at our website, peasebaseball.com. If they want to find our Mount Airy location, they can go to Pease Baseball East. And yeah, hopefully some more good things on the way, more coaches coming in. We're always having new things kind of popping up. It's been really fun.
That's awesome, man. Proud of you. You've always been an incredible human being, and I'm glad to know you. I'm grateful to know you, and blessed to have you in my life. So great to reconnect with you, and let's do this again.
That sounds good, Kevin. Thanks for having me on. And likewise, my man.
All right, man. Take care.